Welcome to Heart Tales, your ultimate destination for animated love and relationship stories. Today, we're diving into a story where two roommates fall into love. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll see love in a whole new light. So, grab a cozy blanket, maybe a cup of tea, and let's get started. Because here at Heart Tales, we believe every heart has a story worth telling. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and let's begin this journey together. I never thought a simple Craigslist ad could change my life. After my last relationship fell apart, I needed a fresh start, a place to breathe, a place to be me again. So, when I saw his post roommate wanted no drama, temporary, I figured why not? 2 weeks on a couch couldn't hurt. That's how I met him. He was exactly what the ad promised. Quiet, a bit guarded, but with a kindness in his eyes that didn't quite reach his smile. His name was Araf, the kind of guy who wore ambition like a second skin but looked exhausted beneath it all. Our first meeting was awkward, full of polite hellos and measured words. We agreed on the rules right away: no romance, no parties, no late-night noise, just two people sharing a space while life sorted itself out. The apartment was small but cozy. I claimed the couch. He had the bedroom. It was perfect in its imperfection. First, it felt strange. Strangers under one roof, each wrapped in their own silence. But slowly, the quiet softened. I started noticing the little things: how Araf brewed his coffee just right every morning, how he left his favorite books scattered across the coffee table, how he hummed a tune when he thought no one was listening. And then there was me, still healing, still guarded, still unsure if I could let anyone in again. 2 weeks came and went. And then 2 months. Our arrangement stretched into something neither of us had planned. Sometimes, when I caught him watching me, or when we shared a laugh over burnt dinner, it felt like the beginning of something neither of us dared to name. But for now, we stayed roommates, because some stories don't start with fireworks, they begin with a quiet agreement, a shared space, and the fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, this time could be different. Living with Araf was like sharing a secret language that neither of us spoke out loud. We had our unspoken rules: no crossing certain lines, no late-night texts about feelings we didn't want to confront, no stealing each other's food, just two people trying to coexist without causing chaos. But boundaries have a way of blurring when you spend every day in the same space. He was ambitious, working late nights on a startup idea that seemed to consume him. I was chasing my own dreams, scribbling stories, and hoping they'd someday find a home. Our lives ran parallel, sometimes intersecting in the kitchen over burnt toast or on the couch during movie marathons. We never called it a date, never admitted. The way our glances lingered a little too long, I learned he hid his vulnerability behind dry humor and a carefully built wall. He learned I was a storm of contradictions, free-spirited yet terrified of getting hurt again. Sometimes I caught him staring at me when he thought I wasn't looking, and my heart skipped only to remind myself. Boundaries. We laughed together. We argued about trivial things, and we shared silence that spoke louder than words. But the rule was clear: no romance. No matter how much our hearts whispered otherwise, because both of us knew the pain of broken promises to so we danced around what could be, choosing comfort over risk, safety over love. For now, it was in the small moments that everything began to shift, quiet, unnoticed, like the first hints of spring after a long winter. We started sharing more than just space. Movie nights became a ritual. We'd pile blankets on the couch, order way too much takeout, and laugh at cheesy rom-coms neither of us admitted we loved. Sometimes, I'd catch Araf humming along to the soundtrack of Key But wholeheartedly. There were dinners we cooked together, experiments with recipes that didn't always turn out well but filled the apartment with warmth, late-night talks about dreams, fears, and the ghosts we both carried. One rainy evening, after a clumsy attempt to make pancakes, we found ourselves sitting side by side on the floor, sharing a bottle of wine he'd been saving for a special occasion. The air between us thickened, electric. Our hands brushed just a flicker but enough to make my heart race. He looked at me, eyes searching, hesitant. For a moment, it felt like we might cross that invisible line, but then we laughed it off awkwardly, nervously, and promised to keep things as they were. That night, I realized the truth we both refused to say out loud. We were falling, but falling meant risking everything we had built. So we stayed roommates. For now, life, as it always does, began pulling us in different directions. New faces entered our world. Dates, friends, fleeting romances. Araf started seeing someone, Sasha, a confident woman with a quick smile and sharp wit. I met Lucas, a kind-hearted musician who made me feel like the world slowed down when he played his guitar. We told ourselves it was just casual, that these people were distractions, not threats, but jealousy has a quiet way of creeping in. Watching Araf laugh with Sasha, the way his eyes lit up, stirred something in me I didn't want to admit, and I saw him notice the way I smiled when Lucas held my hand. We never spoke of it. The tension hung between us, heavy and unspoken. Then came the night Noor met her ex, a blast from her past who wanted her back. She pulled away suddenly, becoming distant, colder. I watched Araf grapple with his own demons while trying to reach her. We were two broken people, desperately trying to hold on to what we had, afraid to lose the only constant in our chaotic lives. But sometimes love isn't enough to bridge the distance growing between hearts. I tried to keep my distance, to bury the feelings that tangled inside me like a storm I couldn't control. But every time Araf laughed, every time he looked my way with those tired eyes full of hope, I felt my heart breaking a little more. I wanted to tell him, to shout it from the rooftops, but fear held me back. Fear of rejection, of losing the fragile friendship we'd built. Fear that once spoken, everything would change or worse, and he seemed lost in his own world, chasing dreams that pulled him further away from me. And then, one evening, the moment came. We were sitting on the balcony, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. He turned to me, his voice barely a whisper. I think I'm falling for you. My breath caught. I wanted to say the same, but instead I smiled, nodded, and whispered back, me too. Neither of us spoke the truth after that night. Some feelings are too fragile to be named, too scary to face. So we let them hover in the shadows, waiting, hoping, fearing what would come next. The day she told me she was leaving, the apartment felt emptier than ever, though she was still there. Noor's eyes were distant, filled with a pain I hadn't seen before. She had gotten a job offer in another city, a fresh start far away from all the memories we'd built together. I wanted to beg her to stay, to tell her everything I'd been holding back, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I watched her pack her bags with trembling hands, stuffing clothes, books, and the pieces of her heart into a suitcase. She left without a proper goodbye, just a letter slipped under the door, folded carefully with her familiar handwriting in it. She confessed everything she never said aloud, the love, the fear, the regret. I read it a dozen times, each word cutting deeper than the last. She thought I didn't love her back. She thought it was too late, and maybe it was, because by the time I realized what I had, she was already gone, carrying with her the life we might have had. The apartment felt colder, the silence louder, and I was left with nothing but memories and a love that waited too long to be spoken. Years passed like pages turning in a book I wasn't ready to finish. I tried to move on, dove into work, dates, distractions, but none of it filled the space Noah had left behind. I got engaged to someone else, a kind man who promised stability, a life without surprises. But on the day of the engagement party, fate decided to remind me of what I'd lost. I was browsing through a bookstore, a rare escape from the chaos of wedding planning, when I saw her. Noah. She was standing by a shelf, smiling softly as she signed copies of a book I recognized instantly. A book filled with stories of love, heartbreak, and second chances, stories that felt like they belonged to us. Our eyes met, and for a moment, time stood still. She looked happy, really happy, but beneath that smile, I sensed the same pain, the same memories that haunted me. We didn't speak that day. Sometimes silence says more than words ever could, but I knew some chapters in life don't close easily, and ours was far from over. Hope you are still listening the story. If you stayed so far, please hit the subscribe button. Comment below your thoughts. Okay, let's start the rest of the story. The morning of my wedding dawned cold and grey, but inside me, a storm was raging. I found the letter Noah had left all those years ago, tucked inside a forgotten book on my shelf. Her handwriting was delicate, but her words were bold, words I never fully understood until now. I loved you all along. I was scared, and I thought you didn't feel the same. But I never stopped hoping we'd find each other again. My heart shattered. How many chances had we lost? How many moments had slipped away because of fear and silence? I couldn't go through with it, not without knowing if what we had was truly over. I left my own wedding, walked out in my dress, ignoring the stunned faces and whispered questions. I needed to find Noah.to tell her everything.to see if there was still a chance for us, because sometimes love isn't about perfect timing, it's about fighting for what feels right, even if it scares you. I found her in that same bookstore, surrounded by the scent of paper and possibility. Noah looked up when I entered, surprise flickered across her face, quickly replaced by something softer. We stood there for a long moment, two souls carrying years of unspoken words between us. I reached out, took her hand, and finally let the truth fall from my lips. I never stopped loving you. Her eyes glistened, and for the first time, I saw the vulnerability she'd hidden for so long. We talked, really talked for hours, about our fears, our mistakes, and the love that had never truly faded. It wasn't a perfect fairy tale. We were both scarred, both learning to trust again. But it was real, and sometimes that's enough. That day, I realized love isn't about rushing or waiting. It's about showing up imperfect, afraid, but willing to try. Noah and I, roommates, turned something more, finally began our new chapter together. Because some stories don't end with a perfect moment. They end with a promise to fight, to forgive, and to love, no matter what, and ours was just beginning. Thanks for watching. Hoped you liked it. Before leaving, please hit the subscribe button, comment your thought, and share with your nearest and dearest one. See you in the next one. Until to the next one, spread love.